Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com.
Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, March 23rd. LA Galaxy get their left back. We're going to talk to you about Juliana Aude, when you can possibly see him, when he'll be arriving here in the United States, and some things that Greg Vanney had to say about the young left back. Not a surprise. You knew he was coming, but still, we want to talk about all the details, get you going for that. All right, we're also going to get you ready for the game against Portland coming up. Talk a little standings as well, maybe a little bit of schedule in there, and so we'll try to fit some stuff in as the Galaxy have the early game on Saturday against the Portland Timbers. We'll get you ready for that. We only had to try to start the show 3 times, and Eric spilled something on himself already. But let's welcome to the show, Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer. How's it going, bud?
You know, I wore my Corner of the Galaxy merch,
Right.
brought my own beverage to the stadium here, and I still spilled it on myself. So that's what I get. We restart things. Bad internet. Kids won't go to bed. You know, what are you going to do?
I was going to say,
There's
a greater
tornadoes in California.
Yeah, Montebello. I hope nobody was in Montebello. It was a real tornado and
It's a
everything.
real deal, yeah.
Yeah, you would know, Eric, because you see those. They're right around your place.
It's old news, yeah.
I was going to say, there's a greater than 80% chance my son will barge in here at some point and decide to make his Corner of the Galaxy debut, because that dude does not want to go to bed tonight. So just letting you know, he already broke in during our like warm up in between, you know. So,
he's quite the personality. So I got to stay on my toes to keep my spot here.
Yeah, he will. Hopefully he'll replace me. Maybe by next week. That would be great.
Nice.
Really appreciate it. Somebody said they said you have a sippy cup, Hammer. Do you need a sippy cup over there?
The sad thing is, I do. It has a lid, and you left the lid open. It still spills.
I understand.
Can't take me anywhere.
How are you doing, sir?
Doing good. It's been a while. I think last time that I was supposed to be on, I had a tornado watch, and a storm watch, and I haven't been on since.
You got
the
relegated.
Galaxy have had their flamboyant start to the season, going with their 2 points that they have to show for it. So excited to be back on and kind of hopefully, break the curse and get things pointing in the right direction. Because right now I haven't been impressed from what I've seen from the Galaxy this season.
Let's take a second. Let's go back just for a second. Get your view on the Vancouver game. I've said it's their best game this season by far. I just don't think that's like saying dramatically much, right? Like, oh, absolutely their best game, but they've been pretty horrible through the first 2 of those games, and this one was just better.
Yeah, the best of the worst. I'm right there with you. You can say it's the best game that they've had, and you could still be underwhelmed and kind of disappointed with the result and the performance. I think through the course of this season, and it's kind of interesting, Ricky Puig is someone who, we were so excited to kind of say, well, look what he did in the last 10 games. Watch out for when he has a full season. And through these first 3 games, I feel like he's been underwhelming, and that's not to say that he almost had. He's been the Galaxy's best player probably if you look at all the passes and shots created and you look at the stats. But the class shows through. But it just feels like he's trying to play hero ball, take a little bit too much on his own, and then he's trying too much on his own, and then he has careless giveaways in the final third, passing up opportunities to kind of feed his teammates and dish things out. So I've been kind of a little down on Ricky. I expected more, and part of that is because of his expectations that he had coming in. So it's kind of a weird thing because I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth, which is my specialty, which is Ricky is very obviously the most talented player on the pitch, but he's still not living up to that MVP caliber performance that I think the LA Galaxy fans have expected to see.
I think it's tough. I mean, I think you're right that he is trying to do a lot himself, right? That makes sense. But also, I think he has to do all of it by himself. He had no wingers through the first two games.
That's fair.
He finally got a winger with Tyler Boyd and got better. I thought the second half for Ricky was a good second half. He was finally dodging tackles. He was finally spraying balls out wide. He was getting the ball. He was distributing. He was being dangerous. They had a couple of chances up through the middle that I really liked, sort of quick combinations. He was involved. Brugman was involved. I think Raheem Edwards is in there involved as well. So, you can sort of feel that there's something happening, and maybe he's getting on track. But yeah, through the first two games, no, he was not an MVP. He wasn't even a good player on the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you mentioned their build up through the middle, which with no wings, you kind of have to build up through the middle. But when you look at their passing network and the possession that they've had, the last season, I made this joke on Twitter and I'll make it again, is that the 2022 LA Galaxy I felt was a counterattacking team that was cosplaying as a possession team. Right. The 2023 LA Galaxy is a possession team, but they don't have any meaningful possession. So just to talk shop a little bit about, what I do for my work, a lot of talk in education and in math right now is you have to give the students struggle time. They need to struggle and kind of come to their own conclusions and figure things out. But there's that term productive struggle. Like they have to know what they're doing. If they don't know what the multiplication symbol means, then you're not just going to let them struggle. Like there needs to be some purpose there. And I see the same thing with the Galaxy. Possession is great, but when you look at they're only passing it in the center circle, like at some point you need to make those darting runs. You need to, put in some crosses that are going to find some feed or make those runs up the middle where you're going to have the give and goes and make those connecting passes. And they're not making those final connections. You can pass it all day long with those short little, passes from your center back, to your defensive mid. But where you're going to get your bang for your buck is that pass in the final third. And that's the part that they've been lacking. They don't have that meaningful possession. They have a lot of possession, but not a lot of it is meaningful.
And even if they do get a counterattack, which I still think that they can be deadly on, they don't have any speed to sort of lead that counterattack out. So it usually fizzles. The guy is everybody's running into the center of the box. That's my favorite thing is three guys all running to the center of the box. It's like, please start on the outside and work your way in. Please, for the love of God. Dejan Joveljic, just take like 30 steps to the right and then make all your runs from that angle.
That's where you really appreciate someone like Chicharito because he's, doesn't have the burst of speed, doesn't have the one-on-one technical skill, but he knows where to stand and where to attack, where to feint and then go in the other direction. Chicharito, that's his bread and butter, and that they're missing a guy like that right now.
We're getting you ready for the Portland Timbers game coming up this weekend. LA Galaxy at Portland Timbers. Galaxy took off for Portland this afternoon. Actually, no, excuse me. They're leaving tomorrow afternoon. So it's Friday after training is whenever they will be leaving. So they will train in the AM and then fly up in the PM. And then they have the early game. That's right, the early game. So the 1:30 PM time, only game kicking off at 1:30 across all time zones. So they will be the only game. This game is on Fox, so it's free that way. It's also on Apple TV free. Right? So you don't have to have MLS season pass. So if I see even one of you complaining, it's so nice of MLS to put it behind a paywall and I can't watch it. Okay, I'm so sick of it because I literally got 3 complaints last weekend about that and it was free inside of the Apple TV. You didn't even have to have Apple TV, like Apple TV Plus. Just Apple TV, you could get in and you could watch that game. So, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was able to get my father, who's of retirement age, to watch the Portugal Liechtenstein game today, via a phone call and via text. He was able to figure out how to get that game on Fubo Sports. So if he can figure out how to get that game, and that involved passwords and logging in. Right. If he can figure it out, you can figure out how to get the free games on Apple TV, in addition to this being the FS1. That's kind of the joke, and I don't know if I've made this since I haven't been on a while, but that cry that you see on the internet is, what about the casuals? How are the casuals ever going to be able to follow MLS? you can still follow. Like there's plenty of free games.
There's
plenty of
plenty of
clips
free games
that are posted. There's plenty of ways for you to follow if you want to follow. Don't not follow it and say, well, it's behind a paywall. Guess I can't see anything. No, if you wanted to, he would. That's kind of the famous thing that's going around right now. But yeah, if you wanted to follow MLS, you can follow MLS. You don't need to have the Apple subscription. It helps. It makes it a lot easier. You get all the bonus content, the recap shows, all the little kind of bells and whistles that come along with it. It's really nice for the diehards. But if you're a casual, you still have access to it. You're not in the dark.
eSuper is about to get banned from the chat room. I'm just telling you right now. Yeah, too little games on other networks though. Oh yeah, it's because it's really hard to find where all these games are. They're literally all we've ever asked for was the ability to find games on a consistent basis on places and not have 7 different channels and 3 different ESPNs and 4 different Foxes and TUDN, Univision. Where is it? I don't know. And let's be very, very clear. I am in the know whenever it comes to games. I know where they're supposed to be, and sometimes I was like, where are they? I need to find this. How do I listen to this? Can I listen to it in English? Can I do all this stuff? It's easy now. It's super easy now. And so that's the point. And it's on Fox. It's on Big Fox, by the way. I should point out. Big Fox. So this is over-the-air TV Fox.
Good stuff. So, well, at that time of the day, that makes sense. Here's my one gripe.
Yes.
I was told
you're blocked.
That kickoff times were going to be at the kickoff times, and that hasn't been the case.
Did you see it?
I mean, this because it's an FS1 game. I figured this was par for the course. But even the Apple kickoff times, that is not the kickoff times.
Apple's 9 minutes behind.
There's a lead-in time, so you still have to do that legwork of figuring out when is actual kickoff. It's not 7:30 or whatever time they say it is. There's a little build-in around that minor thing, but that's just something that I told was gonna happen, and that's not the case.
Yeah, this one in particular for the Fox show, about 25-minute lead-in. So your game, although it says 1:30 p.m., will not kick off until 1:55 p.m. So 5 minutes before the top of the hour there is when it's going to happen. So whenever you get ready for this game, just know you're not going to really watch anything till 2. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to get to see Stu Holden in a broom closet with whatever tarp they've invested in, for this season to have their 25-minute pre-show.
Man, it doesn't look great for them. The other part of that is that Taylor Twellman and is it Jake Zildjian, I think, are on the call on the Apple side.
18.
Yeah.
We get the 18 for this game.
So Taylor, and so that'll be that. There is, if you want to remember, Joe Tutino will be doing every away game. He just does it on the YouTube channel. So if you want to get out there, get your YouTube fired up, try to sync that baby up, do a little pause, little play, you could get that going. And you could find it. And the Apple TV remote, actually, if you have an Apple TV, makes it kind of easy to try to dial that in. I haven't tried it.
Tried it last game. It worked out really well. I didn't experience any delay. And with no disrespect to Joe Tutino, even though this is going to be a respectful comment to him, I tried listening to the Apple broadcast team. I'm not going to jump straight to Joe. I got the Apple package. I'm going to try the Apple team. And I switched to Joe pretty quickly. Yeah. I was like, I need Joe for this game. I can't, now I'm turning it into no disrespect to the Apple team, but Joe is the way to go. If you've been an LA Galaxy diehard and you have that option, it's like a warm blanket, listening to Joe.
It is. Let's talk about Juliana Uday, right? Because this was the big news. Now, this is something you knew listening on this podcast. The good thing about you guys in the podcast is you usually know when things are going to happen. We're usually not surprised. We may be surprised when they actually announce it, but it's one of those that we've been telling you that this seems like it's going across the finish line. Juliana Uday, 19-year-old from Lanús. Greg Vanney talking about him today. Really interesting. Greg Vanney says, I've been following him for a couple of years because I was following the guy who was in front of him. And then he got traded to a different team, and I wanted them for one of my teams. I don't know if that was Toronto years or Galaxy years, right? But Vanney basically saying, I've been watching this team and watching this player, and this is one of the guys that I sort of had my eye on. 19 years old, almost 6 feet tall. That's something, because the LA Galaxy, if you've watched anything there, Eric, have little tiny outside backs most of the time. The back line isn't the most gigantic ever in the history, although I think Martin Caceres is a big guy, so he takes up a lot of room. Jalen Neal is taller than I think me. So I think
Caceres plays big, and Neal is tall. Yeah, probably could still add a little more to the frame, but yeah, he's not a small guy.
Yeah, it doesn't see that way. But the outside backs, Vanney sort of made a note and saying, it's rare that you get sort of a 6 foot tall outside back guy who has a lot of speed and a lot of agility. So he's not overly tall where he's going to be lanky and sort of what was it, clumsy on his feet, that types of thing.
Yeah.
He seems, if you watch any of the highlights, to be a very smooth runner.
He's polished. He plays like an Argentine player. Yeah.
He does. He plays with a nice little flair. Now, of course, that's from the highlights. I want to watch what happens whenever he gets stripped of the ball and he has to run back and all that fun stuff.
Well, and credit to the LA Galaxy, and partially because I think he has one goal in his career. It's not like he has tons of goals, but my favorite thing is when they sign a defender and it's all highlights of goals that they've scored. But they had some pretty sweet defensive highlights. Goal line saves and tackles and tackles that created a transition. So
passes,
actual legit defensive highlights.
Yeah.
So kudos to the LA Galaxy team who put that together.
The other part of this that we definitely have to mention is the LA Galaxy are getting another Disney character. As far as I'm concerned, him and Ricky could be in their Disney's next animated series. Looks like a good guy. Looks like he's going to be fun once he gets in. Greg Vanney said today, 7 to 8 days. That's totally a guess, and he knows it too, right? He's sort of like, we're at the, basically we have to pay attention to what they're telling us. We have to answer. We've already had a couple days under our belt, so we're hopeful that it's about 7 to 8 days from now. That was of today, before they sort of left. So this is, I think in 7 to 8 days you could see him, another week or so. So figure 2.5 weeks, and he's probably available to actually play. Yeah. That's my guess.
I wanted to go back and look at when they technically signed Calegari, because I think they fed us the same thing. 7 to 10 days and it should be done. But I think it's been 2 or 3 weeks since Calegari was signed. Was he signed before the Rose Bowl was made official?
Maybe. I can't remember. I could look it up on my stuff.
We're going on about a month of before he's actually going to see some on the field things. So again, if it stays within track, you're thinking 3 weeks to a month.
Right.
If you do the Vanney currency translation, 7 to 8 days. It's dog years.
That's
3
right.
times that.
That's right. Exactly. That's how it works. In any government office in any country, anything's different. Patrick with the $10 super chat says, COG, the hardest working show in show business, y'all are soldiers. Sometimes we feel that way, Patrick. Today was one of those days. Yeah. Salute to you.
I was like, some days you feel like that. Today, I don't feel like I'm in show business nor in military. So soldiers and show business, but the super chat is appreciated nonetheless.
By the way, I should say we have a fairly open show in terms of if you want an actual topic to be discussed tonight, we're more than happy to jump on it. Super chat of $1 gets you in that, and we will switch topics and for at least
Patrick's
a little.
Like, man, I could have gotten the shout out for $1.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
Patrick's always around. Patrick's a beast in the chat.
Yeah. It's again a fairly open show just because we have these different things. I wanted to talk a little bit about Aude. Here's the big deal, which I want to say, haha, told you so to so many people. The LA Galaxy, I know, isn't it nice whenever I get petty?
It's like, hey, we don't have a lot of the show, but what we do have time for, a victory lap.
A victory lap. Let me tell you.
All the haters, yeah.
There is always a lot of hate, and there's always a lot of concern from Galaxy fans about international slots, right? There's always like, oh, well, nobody's going to give them to the Galaxy because they don't want to see the Galaxy succeed. Why would they do such a thing? And they're going to just charge. They know we don't have it. We can't get anybody in the summertime, so they're going to charge us more right now. Thanks for playing. No, that's not what happens because there are market forces at work here, folks. People have international slots they're not going to use. And so therefore, they would rather get some money instead of zero money. So if you're the LA Galaxy, if you're Jovan Krofsky, if you're Greg Vanney, you pick up the phone, you call all these GMs, you're like, hey, I need an international slot. How much are you going to charge me? And they're like, well, I'm going to charge you $300,000. So like, thank you very much. Call up the next guy. How much are you going to charge me? Well, I'm going to charge you $200,000. All right, thank you. Pick up the next phone. Hey, Seattle, how much are you going to charge us for this? $150,000. Okay, we'll take the $150,000. But listen, let's split that in half. Let's pay some now and some later, and then we'll call it good, right? So for everybody who was concerned about international slots, right? And I'm not saying that you're going to get them for $150,000 anytime, but $150,000 is a absolutely perfect price. That's a good price.
That's a really good price for an international slot. We've seen them pay a lot more for that in the past, and I think that's why, to take the side of anyone who is going on the other side of the argument, it's the Galaxy we felt like paid more for international slots than maybe some transfer fees and some teams were able to get players for less than what we paid for an international slot. So I understand the trepidation, but we also have to think single entity. Like if this young Argentine player with a pedigree who's going to be good for the league and is going to progress, one of their marquee teams. Part of me wants to put the tinfoil hat and say single entity is going to make sure that, let's find a buyer for the LA Galaxy. Let's make sure that we can get them in an international slot. That, they're going to find ways to make this work. But to your point, with 29 teams, not all of them using all those international slots.
Right. Someone's
going to have one available, at a somewhat reasonable price at some point. And even if they paid more, the Galaxy would have been willing to pay more, I'm sure, if they had to. But, with 29 teams, I'm sure the price worked itself out.
232 international slots across all of MLS, right? They cannot be deleted or created. They are one whole of 232. Everybody starts with 8, and then you can trade them in that year, but only for that year. You would have to go and do something next year in order to get another one or that type of thing. The best part is $75,000 in general allocation money this year, $75,000 in general allocation money next year. Somebody said, let's see.
Yeah, Mr. Provino, shout out.
we're paying more for Cabral right now than we paid for the international slot, by like a lot more. I mean, Cabral was making, how many millions of dollars was that? What was his salary? I'm trying to remember what his salary was. Somebody remember, but Galaxy are basically paying half that.
I think
it may have been 1.6. Yeah. But yeah, the Galaxy are paying for half of that. So, $800,000. Now it's non-cap hit. It looks like it's outside the cap, so it doesn't really matter, except that that's real money that is actually getting paid, right?
That's the funny thing is like, it's MLS funny money, but like that money goes into Kevin Cabral's bank account. So it's real money somewhere, so it gets cash. It floats somewhere. So, I don't know if he hopefully he's not banking with Silicon Valley Bank, but hopefully that ends up, those checks clear, but it's real money somewhere along the line.
Did you see the line about Zlatan when the last time he cried was? Did you see that? Somebody the tweet was the last time.
Do you mean Zava or do you mean Zlatan?
Zava. Yeah, I know. Don't ruin it for me. I have not watched Ted Lasso.
It's a light spoiler. It won't ruin the show.
I have not watched Ted Lasso. I'm waiting to binge because I am an impatient human being and I would like to keep watching and just get involved and absorbed by it and then watch the whole thing at once. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, fair enough. I was actually, since we have an open show, let's go into it. Ted Lasso. My brother was kind of saying the same thing. Is this, did they hit the ground running, or is this one where it's going to be a slow build? And I will say, if you're going the Josh Guesman route, the season is going to slowly build up to it. Like they haven't had any bangers of the episode. Right. You could tell they're just planting the seeds right now, and it's kind of building up to it. And there's a familiar face, a character that's modeled after a familiar face. If you've been an LA Galaxy fan in recent years, which we gave it away. It's a Zlatan lookalike,
right?
And kind of persona in that regard. So if you're dying to see what that was, it's a light spoiler. It's not going to spoil the show, but it's kind of interesting that the Galaxy connections there. One, with the Zlatan lookalike, and two, little bit of a spoiler, but a character who's modeled after Chicharito scoring with his face. It's like that. These coincidences are kind of adding up. So what was Zlatan's line on?
It was
his saddest moment.
He said the last time he cried was whenever he was a young player and he didn't get paid. And didn't get paid. I think it was like Malmo or something like that. He was like, oh, I didn't get paid because I was too young and they had to send the money to my parents, right? And it was like, oh man, that would suck though. Like here you are, and especially for him, for how independent he was, probably at like 17 or something like that, and the paycheck doesn't come to him; it goes to his parents. I would be banging on the door.
I think the second part of that story, he said, I told them that if I'm not old enough to get paid, then we're not old enough to get the 3 points. And I asked for the team to be deducted the 3 points. And the next day, the money was in my account. So
there you go.
Typical Zlatan stuff.
And the reason we bring up Zlatan, of course, this is the day in, was it 2018?
It popped up in my feed 5 years ago.
Yeah. Zlatan Ibrahimovic officially joined the LA Galaxy with Los Angeles, you're welcome, right? That was the full page ad.
The famous lion ad, the Lion of Los Angeles. So all that I remember it popped up in my feed 5 years ago. Us tracking his flight. So that was this week 5 years ago. We were tracking his flight, watching what was happening with Zlatan touching down in Los Angeles. So
the best flight tracker we ever did. That was a good one.
That was a fun episode.
Yeah, it was a good one. Although I think we did get like Chicharito landing, the actual video of his plane landing whenever he landed.
It was happening. And
yes,
clips were coming in at that time. Yeah, I remember that one as well.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. So Zlatan, that anniversary, and all we can do is sort of sit back and reminisce that yes, that did happen, and yes, the LA Galaxy did squander the wonderful talent that was Zlatan Ibrahimovic in Major League Soccer. Most dominant player, and I've talked to a bunch of different MLS players, new ones, old ones, everything in the South. The most dominant player in MLS history, and it probably isn't even close. There is nobody else who was able to dominate the way that Zlatan Ibrahimovic did. And he sort of continues to do that. I mean, the dude is 1,000,000 years old now, and he's still scoring in Serie A, right?
Yeah, oldest player to score in Serie A, I believe. So
wow.
Just, the man's unbreakable.
Yeah, it was an interesting. He landed, he got out, he walked to the bus and said hi to everybody, and away he went. And we're all like, he's not going to play in that first. Like maybe there's no way he landed the night before. He's not going to play, and of course we all know what happened.
And the part that I think gets lost in there is the knee injury that he was coming off was like a horrific knee injury.
Yep.
With a year long, So this wasn't just he's getting off a plane to play. This is someone who hasn't played in a year. So that was. The stories that we'll continue to tell about that opening game. So
the miracle,
great memories.
The miracle of March 31st still upon us. That great holiday that all Galaxy fans celebrate, and that I will celebrate for the rest of my life. Just knowing that I will never, ever in my entire life ever see a sporting event that crazy. That was it. We peaked in 2018. It's never going to get better than that. I don't care if the Galaxy win MLS Cups. I've seen those. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. It was the loudest I've ever seen that stadium. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves because we will probably talk about that whenever actually March 31st comes up and all that fun stuff. So anyway, so let's get back to Juliana Uday. 5-year contract. That was something we didn't know coming in. So he is signed through 2027. Everybody needs to take a deep breath on that. The Galaxy haven't exactly been lucky with 5-year contracts. Yeah. So this is a gamble. I think it's a good gamble, but it's a gamble.
And so the other thing, and I'm going to float this around, and I don't know if this is going to open a can of worms that it should or it shouldn't open, but you look at the players that the Galaxy have been signing recently up until this Aude signing, and it's shorter contracts, and you think, okay, maybe this is the new era. Mikey Stevens and Greg Vanney, this has kind of their fingerprints on it. You feel like they're building this team and their image, and then you see 5 years, and then you see Jovan Kirovski being the name in the blurb about the player, and you think, okay, well, is this a Jovan Kirovski, Chris Klein deal, because they've kind of have that history of doing the 5-year contract and doing that. So you think with this, everything that's going on in the circumstances, and I don't know if I want to open this can of worms with the boycott and everything and the Klein out movement, the contract length felt like a Klein-ish move. So
right.
Just one of those raises the eyebrows, and I don't know is it something, is it nothing, is it worth even talking about? But it's just something that did raise the eyebrow a little bit with the 5-year, given the unluckiness that they've had with those lengthy contracts. Kevin Cabral being the shining turd in the bowl, really.
Right, yeah. Pipo Gonzalez, Jorgen Shelvik. I mean, you can go back to a bunch of 5-year contracts that have hurt the LA Galaxy. I'll say this. If you're going to gamble on young guys, this feels like a guy you take a gamble on. I mean...
Correct.
Right?
A 5-year contract to a 21 Cabral, hey, this is a young guy. He's going to develop. He's going to get better. This isn't a finished product. And so we've been told this before. And not to say that it's a one-for-one comparison, but it's just...
I know
we've been fed this line before, and I think if Galaxy fans are hesitant and want to wait till we see the actions on the field, I think that's fair to reserve judgment right now.
I would like to say we start this show with Aude coming in as a 19-year-old, and then tomorrow he will be 20 years old. All right, so on Friday he will be 20 years old, and so we're all expecting that to happen here very soon. All right, so. Really interesting guy. I mean, Vanney even goes as far as to say, hey, this is a guy who maybe could be on the Argentine national team. I mean, that's how, where he sort of sees him and sort of sees his ceiling, and anything else that sort of, comes up for just, Aude and everything else. This, again, it seems like a good gamble. It seems like this is the way that they want to go. I don't hate the signing. I like the age. I like Calegari on the outside being 19, 20 years old. I like Aude being 19, 20 years old. I like Jalen Neal being 19, 20 years old. The only problem with that is that if they don't hit the ground running, if they're not able to kick it into high gear immediately, then you start to worry. right? Then there's a worry here that this development is going to take longer. And I think with Calegari and I think with Aude, I think you're seeing guys who are going to be able to adapt to this league. They don't seem like they're going to be out of place in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, and you look at the Brazilian league and the Argentine league, and one for one with MLS. I don't think you're going to see a steep drop off or a learning curve from where they're going to need to kind of figure things out. Like these are countries that have leagues that know how to ball, and especially the clubs that they're coming from. So I'm not as concerned as that offensive line, and if they don't hit the ground running, this could Dejan Joveljic, who they're kind of moving in the direction 3 years down the road. Maybe that's playoffs and the way any team could get built to win. Not now.
I've checked the network and stuff like that, and it's always fine. And then we start a loss for a lot of. It gives us a lot of different things to do. One, and it's interesting. He's asked about it, very on point. We all know that that's the case. And that ultimately means that it'll allow Edwards to get like 6 feet tall and says that that's unusual. For a fee, those are the types of deals you have to deal, right? So
the drama that was behind we're kind of adamant in making sure that the salary designations and I mentioned the name.
Anyway, that's sort of where we sit to talk again about the schedule coming up. I know we touched a little bit on it on Monday. Portland, the trip to Portland coming up, that closes out your month for Orlando, Houston. So you look at all those things, and that sort of leads you to the 13. Not only a slow start, but now they get into some difficult games. Only positive maybe is they might be getting some guys back. And
you look at how St. Louis, we were talking about this a little bit off air, started. You can dig yourself a hole. They're now 10 points behind, to already be behind and to kind of find those difference. And obviously they need to start. You mentioned this with the Panda as well. That's kind of a firing on all cylinders.
Right.
Maybe Willie put some things together and the schedule starts to get later. This goes once you start getting into pad your stats and
I still think that they're going to have time to ship. And I think getting this game on their own, they're missing to see Calegari start. Because Leerdam's not going to, but at this point, I'm sort of like
the other side of I can't build myself up
to struggle up in Portland is saying that the Galaxy had day stuff, the group, so they seem to be on similar timelines. That seems like that's fine.
Injury is something that, I've had experience with, not always right. And then it makes you susceptible timeline. And if you're happy with what Klinsmann brings to the table, okay, it's not that big of a hit. But when he does come back, you think, okay, now it's going to be, tender, and you gotta keep an eye out because now it could take less contact to do the same amount or worse damage to it. It's kind of one of those situations. So this type of injury in particular for a goalkeeper is something that concerns me and worries me quite a bit about Bond.
Yeah, I mean, here is the side talk about that is that there's not a lot of drop off between Klinsmann and Bond. In fact, I see a lot of them. I see them as very similar goalkeepers. I think their style is similar. I think they're as aggressive as each other. I think their styles fit into what the LA Galaxy are trying to do. I don't think either of them is like the top, absolute best goalkeeper in the league. Jonathan Klinsmann has a higher upside. He's a little bit younger, right? So and especially with. For me, with goalkeepers, you look at that and you say, okay, is that a thing? And how sort of are the Galaxy going to figure out a way to work these guys back in? But, for me, Jonathan Klinsmann is capable. And I don't know that I would have said that at the very beginning. Vanney was out there just, pumping him up as he should do the week before. But he was like, he has size. He has the physicality. He's a phenomenal shot stopper. Greg said he loved him being aggressive and is okay with the occasional mistake if it means he's being aggressive, right? For young goalkeepers, it's about finding your range, finding where you can get there. He calls him a phenomenal athlete. And this is his opportunity. He's been wanting reps. He wants to start every single game. He gets a chance now to start, 2, 3, 4 games in a row before Jonathan Bond gets back. And so this is his chance to prove it. Win the spot now, Jonathan Klinsmann,
We've kind of seen it in these first few games with Jalen Neal. When you have the opportunity, you can make it work in your favor to where it's now your spot. Hey, I've taken this spot. This is my spot now. If someone else wants to come in here, you were the starter before, or you expected to do it, but now I've played so well that I'm going to have to make a glaring mistake in order for this spot to become yours again. So you don't wish injury upon anyone, obviously, and we love Jonathan Bond and what he brings to the team. Right. But Klinsmann has an opportunity here where if he looks incredible, Jonathan Bond hasn't been so stellar that he's looked irreplaceable. So if Klinsmann looks like he can be the guy and be aggressive and make those, get a couple shutouts here in the mix, there's nothing to say that, hey, let's not rush Jonathan Bond back from this injury, and maybe Klinsmann has the opportunity to make Bond do something to take it back, or for him to have, really a howler of a game in order to lose his spot. He has an opportunity to kind of to make a stand and make that spot his own.
Yeah. This is his opportunity. This is how it goes. Yeah. Just again to confirm, Joveljic, Leerdam, Zavaleta all confirmed to miss the game, so they're not going to be there. Vanney was talking about, sort of where the Galaxy are and how it is. He goes, I think it was tough whenever we didn't get to play that first game. He said losing the first game, meaning not playing it. He goes, it really did hurt our momentum. And it's sort of, we lost that drive. The guys were up to play that game, and then you're not playing it. Then you have to reset, and you have to go on the road to Dallas, and you have to go on the road to SKC. Those are different games than what you were mentally prepared for to start. Now we can say, hey, you still got to be those guys. You still got to show up and win those games. And you're right. And I don't think Vanney would argue that. But if we don't talk about the mental part of this entire thing, then we're doing everybody a disservice, because it's a huge part of everything that's going on. So this team almost feels like it started in quicksand. You can sort of tell, like they're not there. The rhythm's not there. They're not feeling it. They only got one home game. Really, you would like to get a home game, and then you would like to go on the road, and then you like to come back and play at home again. So
or have a home stand where you're home for a couple weeks. Yeah.
Right. You want to do that, and instead they lost that. Vanney says that the Galaxy lost too many balls in ways that we don't want to lose balls. It's in the center of the field, into allowing teams to transition. Vanney was saying the game's still way too open for him, and that we have to stop this sort of no more end to end, right? No more end to end. We can't allow things to give balls away and then let the game get vertical for us. We need to control the pace and the pressure of the game and keep those turnovers from happening. So,
which was one of my biggest critiques of the game against Vancouver, is that mental point of, the Galaxy, this is their home opener. They're supposed to be excited to be with their fans, to be, to have a chance to kind of be comfortable and in their own setting at their home stadium to make it work. And I saw a Vancouver team that out-hustled them and pressed and dictated, where the Galaxy were going to do. Yes, the Galaxy had possession, but Vancouver was all over them and forcing a lot of those mistakes. So Vanney was saying they gave up the ball in a lot of those positions, but a lot of that was from the press of Vancouver kind of forcing the Galaxy to make those mistakes. So I'm kind of right in line with what Vanney is saying there, is that if the Galaxy is going to have that possession, then they need to dictate. They can't have a team pressuring them and, basically out hustling them. That was the thing that I was disappointed with toward late in the game, when the Galaxy needed to press and they needed to get a goal to make that lead. I saw a Vancouver team that looked, I hate to be the guy they had hungry. They were hungrier.
Right.
They played with more heart.
They wanted it more.
But they were pressing. They were, hustling more to the spots and running to the spots faster than the Galaxy were. And not that, with no disrespect to Vancouver, they don't have better horses than the Galaxy have. They were just outworking them. And I think that's what, maybe Vanney is lighting a fire, that the Galaxy need to put in that work. It's not going to happen naturally. They need to be the ones that dictate where the game is going to go.
Yeah. That was interesting. The other interesting thing that sort of came from Vanney's media availability was Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd was talking and basically said, they asked him how it was his first start, and he was like, it's a dream come true, and it's perfect that it was here at home. Remember, this is a kid who grew up going to LA Galaxy games, right? So this is really something for him. Damian Calhoun was there asking the questions, and he said, did you have a lot of family in for it? He goes, yeah. He goes, I had a lot. My mom and dad were visiting, right? So they're here right now, and he had about 10 family members there that were all there for the game. So he said, making a starting debut at the stadium was special, and the only thing that was missing was 3 points. He talked about, and he and Vanney both said this, hey, we scored 3 goals. We need to look at that as a positive. We scored 3 goals. One was offside, one was a phantom handball, and, one was one that we created and it counted. And so that's good. They also had a couple goal line clearances from Vancouver, and so those are good. So when you look at it, the chances were better in Vancouver than they have been, and I really think that is due in large part to Tyler Boyd, and not necessarily even just anything that he did, but his presence on the outside, drawing people out and drawing defenders out towards him, starting those runs on the outside, being that outlet were sort of good things there.
Yeah, he made them less predictable is what it was. When you play the Galaxy and they don't have wings, you know exactly what you need to do. When they have wings and you can create that width, then, they become a little bit less predictable, especially with Boyd, who's someone who, a lot of other teams are not going to have, a huge scouting report because he's newer to the league. So that's where you're going to be able to exploit and use him as an advantage. So yeah, I thought Boyd was really good on the night.
Very good. So that was sort of it. He sort of finished with saying, I think we are starting to click. And he says, and if the team starts to gel, all of us individually will have good performances. It's about learning the system. He talked about there's a bunch of new players, and there are new players out on the field, and there's guys who weren't necessarily in the starting spots that they were last year. And so he's talking about how that gels together. And, he's still trying to learn the system that Vanney's putting in there. So I feel like they're going to be okay, and we've sort of said this from the beginning. We feel like they're going to be okay, but they're going to struggle here to start this season. It's not going to be pretty. And the fact is the LA Galaxy are winless, through the start of the season to the first 3 games. So, I guess you sort of take that with what it is.
I don't want to hope that they're going to be okay. I just want to see them be okay.
Just be
just be okay, please.
Don't tell me, show me. Right? It's like just show me how it goes. So that's sort of our thoughts there on the media availability, and we already gave you the injury updates as well, so you have all of that. So let's get you ready for this game against Portland. Are you ready, Hammer?
I think so.
Okay.
We'll see. Are people? Is the video going to work? Is the audio going to work?
The video is working right now. It did come back, which is always the thing. It freaks out for 10 minutes and then it comes back, and I don't know what it is because it doesn't do it at any other time. So don't worry. Already in my DMs on Twitter, I got people who are willing to help us out. All right. So I actually have a hardwired line that I have already run outside. I just haven't run it back down to where it needs to go. So I'm working on that. It's just still taking time, and I don't even know if that's going to fix it. That's just a guess right now that although we have done this show for years and never had a problem with the wireless connection. So I would just like to point out that all of a sudden it seems to be an issue. By the way, shout out to executive producer Herb, Big Daddy Herb. He says, hey, Josh, hey, Hammer. If anyone is interested, the Spanish broadcast of the game is available on 13:30 a.m. Called by longtime announcer Rolando Gonzalez. Shout out to Mike Gray as well. Yeah, big shout out to Mike. I know he was. I know you had some technical difficulties on your podcast tonight, Mike. So I guess it's just par for the course today. It must be the sunspots or something like that. That's what I'm guessing. It's the Chinese weather balloons that are over, right? Something like that. So yeah, it's the whole deal. Is one of those. Thanks, Herb. We appreciate that as always. And a shout out.
What do the numbers mean? 1892. Any guesses?
No.
Is it just
no? I don't. I've stopped. He's too smart for me, and I'm not going to play his games anymore. I don't know. I would say the LA Galaxy are starting to promote the Spanish radio. I am starting to see it on game previews and different articles that are sort of coming about. So it was there for the Vancouver game. So if you were worried about that, it seems to have corrected itself. I'm sure mostly because of people saying, "Hey, where are you? Where is this? Why aren't you promoting it?" and all those other fun things. So that's where we're at. Let's see. Okay, so we're getting to the Portland game. All right, I just want to say I'll do a little thing. The LA Galaxy playing the Portland Timbers coming up on Saturday, March 25th, 1:30 p.m. Kickoff 1:55 p.m. Game is free on Fox, Big Daddy Fox, and also free on Apple TV as well. So you don't need to have MLS Season Pass to watch this game. That's where you can find it, and you can pick your commentators. Apparently, you can go with Stu and John Strong, or you can go with Jake and Taylor there. So. Those are your choices, and choose and use them well. Or you can technically pull the Portland home audio as well if you so much wanted to. But none of you really want to hear that. Everybody wants to hear Hammer and his game preview, which, by the way, I would very much like to point out, sometimes he comes fully prepared. And today, I think he's going to have to wing it. And I look forward to the winging it once, the whole deal. So are you ready, Hammer?
I think so. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. Here we go. LA Galaxy headed up the Portland Timbers. Here is your dramatic game preview.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for a match that's sure to be as epic as the Portland skyline. It's the LA Galaxy versus the Portland Timbers, and the Galaxy are desperate for a point. The Timbers may be known for their lush greenery and their hipster vibe, but on the pitch, the Galaxy will be the ones donning the green of the LA kit once again. This is a showdown between the City of Angels and the City of Roses, and anything can go down. Will Portland show LA who's boss and put them in their place like a perfectly brewed IPA? Or will the Galaxy rise to the occasion and leave the Timbers feeling like they've been cut down? One thing's for sure is this is a game where you want to grab your coffee, put on your plaid, and get ready to watch a soccer match out in Portlandia.
That's not bad. I mean, that
It kind of worked. That was, figuring out some things here at the end.
That was good. That's okay.
Right.
I think you did well. I think you did well. I think people are excited. By the way, shout out, $5 super chat from Gary. Cheers, guys. Thanks you once again for a great show. Well, mostly a great show, except for those 10 minutes that nobody will ever hear.
You guys are the
except
real
on
MVPs out there.
Yeah, that's right. I watched our viewership drop in half, by the way. It was really nice. It was really, really fun. I eventually turned it off because I didn't want to watch it anymore. Scott, also with the $10 super chat. Hope we get the win. Have a great weekend, Josh and Eric. Scott, hope you're doing well.
Appreciate it, Scott.
Keep it up, bud. We'll talk to you soon, I'm sure. All right. Here we go. This is the Portland game. I mean, we sort of look at Portland and they're struggling too, right? Like you can go in here and look at what Portland, and listen, not only are they struggling, but those guys have given up a lot of goals in recent games, especially to Atlanta. They're coming
off a shellacking.
Yeah, which is never a good thing. They go to Atlanta, they get shellacked 5-1. By the way, they scored the first goal and it was called offside. Eventually, so it got brought back, and then they end up getting the 5 spot. So 5-1 was the total on that game. This is interesting though. The Galaxy are unbeaten in 4 straight meetings with Portland.
That is interesting.
Win 3, draw 1 after the Timbers had won 6 of the previous 7 contests. So there is some history here showing that the LA Galaxy can win. As a matter of fact, the last time the LA Galaxy won in Portland wasn't that long ago. April 3rd, 2022. That's last year. 3-1 victory. 3-1 victory. If you remember, Bonilla got a red card in the first half stoppage time. Delgado got a red card in the 61st, right? Remember whenever he got 2 yellows?
Yeah, that was a weird game, yeah.
Weird game. The Galaxy got 2 goals from Chicha, and then Portland scored the other goal for the LA Galaxy on an own goal. It was a good move, though, and they sort of... They really forced it in there. So that was a very good game by the Galaxy. A weird game, but it was one of those games where the game was over basically before that first half stoppage time red card anyway. Yeah. The Galaxy were already cruising pretty comfortably there. So that was the last time. The Timbers have 3 points from their first 4 matches. So 4 games, 3 points. They have 1 win. I believe the win was the first game of the season for them. Whenever they played their first one. The 7th time in club history they've had 3 or fewer points at this stage of the season. Portland has come back to make the playoffs in 5 of the previous 6 seasons, reaching MLS Cup final in 3 of those. So see, it's not even a bad sign for Portland. They're just sort of getting warmed up right now, right?
Yeah, their 1 win is their opener against Kansas City, Kansas City's been putting on some stinkers. So yeah, a 1-0 win against Kansas City isn't exactly a diamond to put on display.
The Galaxy are winless through their first 3 matches of the season, but they have managed draws in each of the last 2. The LA, this is one of those stats where
this is the part that made me go, what?
Right. LA has only lost 2 of its last 14 regular season matches dating back to mid-August of last season. Win 5s, draw 7s, right? Remember, they closed out the season strong. There were no losses in there. It was a whole bunch of draws and a whole bunch of wins. And, that was one of the reasons that had the LA Galaxy sort of on that edge and moving forward. Yeah. Bad news for Portland, of course. Portland has conceded 10 goals over its last 3 matches, all losses, including the 5-1 defeat to Atlanta United on Saturday. The Timbers have allowed more goals in 3-match span of MLS matches just once, letting in 11 goals on a run of 3 straight losses in July of 2012, with the first a 5-3 loss to the LA Galaxy. There's all this history just tying into each other.
I was going to say 5-3. I think it's safe to say we're not going to see 5-3.
I don't think we're seeing 5-3. I don't know. Because these two teams are going to be shorthanded on both sides, right? Portland's missing guys for international duty. The Galaxy are missing guys for international duty. Galaxy have guys injured. Portland have guys injured. It's going to be, I don't know, if maybe they'll find the 11 guys and just roll them out there. The Galaxy have completed an MLS high 88% of their passes this season, well ahead of the next closest team, Atlanta, which is 85.5%. LA completed 88.1% of its passes against Vancouver on Saturday, with all 11 players that attempted 15 or more passes completing at least 80% of their pass attempts. That's a weird one. There's just a lot of passes.
That one surprised me. Yeah, I think I saw some stats that they have the highest pass completion in the league, which that is surprising. But then I go back to that thing that I was saying. Possession is great, but is it meaningful possession? I don't know that they've dinged it around between their center backs and their midfielders, but I don't know that they've made the passes count when they needed them the most.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You go back, you can sort of see it. This matchup is very much tied, right? So Portland has 13 wins, LA has 14 wins. There's 7 draws. If Portland wins, it'll be 14, 14, and 7, and that's what you call an even match there. The whole deal. So interesting, sort of in the history and how that sort of goes down. I'll say this as you sort of look at, and I think Greg Vanney was cognizant of the guys who really can make an impact for Portland. And even if you watch the Atlanta game, it was Williamson who scored that first goal, and it was a banger. It was really nice, and you're like, man, this is going to go great for them. It's really going to take off. And It got waved offside. It didn't go in, and that was sort of the downside of some of those things. So Williamson is one of those guys. Chara is one of those guys. Vanney says they're good at making a game difficult. They go from low block to high pressure. They can do both. So they can pressure you outside, up top, and they can also drop back and really defend in the compact ways. But he calls them extremely dangerous in the transition. Mentioned again Williamson and Chara, and he says they have good 1v1
which
guys.
Chara?
Oh yeah,
Charas?
so many Charas, right? You have a Chara.
That's why I
here
have in
and a
my
Chara
notes.
there.
I have Williamson and the Flying Charas. Those are the guys who I have to look out for.
Diego Chara likely to get the start in there and be the guy, but that's the guy he was talking about. Vanney says something, and this is one of those, but making Portland chase the game is really sort of a good thing for them because them having possession is not their strong suit, right? They are a transition sort of offense. We've seen that. Now, big struggle for the LA Galaxy, Eric, transition defense. So if you give the ball away in certain areas, Portland will punish you. And that's my big takeaway from all of this, which is don't do that. You can't do that. In fact, I would much rather you not play the game and it be 0-0 for most of the time than give away balls in bad areas.
That's where Yimmy Chara is going to kill you, because I think Diego Chara, he'll probably be having a wrestling match with Gaston Brugman in the midfield, but then it's who are the guys that they're going to spring. But to Portland's point, I think I saw that Asprilla is still a few weeks away, so some of their most dangerous pieces that they've had in the past, those guys won't be there, so that will play to the Galaxy's advantage. The Portland team, but they're not going to be full strength, so I think the Galaxy, we might see the game being closer than maybe than we may be expecting, given how the Galaxy haven't been really lighting the field up.
44% chance for Portland to win, 32% for the LA Galaxy, and a 24% draw. That's where we sit. That's where we stand. That's where everything is at right now, right? So
the LAFC over Dallas, Philadelphia over Atlanta. Closest ones, I think Columbus, Atlanta is the other one that's maybe our time. Well, 538. They're not always accurate. Why do you guys reference it? Take those winning percentages to Vegas. You come out on, you look at that game versus Vancouver, your eyes saw. Again, of course, there's going to be anomalies, just like that.
Yeah, I sort of calling in with guys who come off the bench. It's the beginning of the season. There's all that fun stuff as well. So if you're going to Portland, my phone was like, don't worry. It's going to be Saturday, 45% chance of rain. And
shame that Portland does have.
What's your score?
Was pulled out of know how this movie plays out. I can't see the goal.
Yeah, no, I'll be there.
Prove me wrong.
It sort of is free on Fox, free on Apple TV coverage. Probably. Should we get on out of here?
All right.
All right, if you're all the shows, all that fun stuff, we'll work on how it all works. All right, keep both free. All right, everybody.
You Galaxy Podcast listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew. Goodbye, everybody.